So thank you for joining us this Tuesday evening. It's a Tuesday still. Um, we are the co-founders of the Nomadic Archivist Project, which is um, which is an organization. It's a small organization that Stephen and I founded about 8 years ago now.
Mhm.
Um, and Sorry about that, folks. Stephen and I founded about 8 years ago to work with people across the global Black world on anything to do with archives, whether it's individual archives like
Mhm.
family archives or institutional materials or community archives. And so we've learned a lot from just all the conversations and all the people that we have um, built community with and
Mhm.
partnered with. And so, in doing this work, we thought, it'd be great to just engage people in a very casual way around archives, what they're thinking about, what they're doing.
Mhm.
And so, we began the NAP Kickback, which we did last year. And we had a little bit of a hiatus,
Yes.
but we are back in full effect. And we are really super excited to be here with you. We hope to come back, every other Tuesday. I think that's sort of the plan for us to
Mhm.
be
Every
back
other
every other
Tuesday.
Tuesday. And just to talk about anything that's on people's minds from like real fears around our cultural heritage being lost and just like where to get
Mhm.
started with shoe boxes and everything that's in our attics or basements or under our beds. So today we're going to talk about a little bit about decluttering. But
Mhm.
thank you again for joining. And definitely, we hope that you will engage with us in the kickback. I
Please.
mean, in the chat,
Mhm.
anything that you're interested in hearing about or talking about, or we pose questions, feel free to add things or add suggestions. This is a community space. We're all here learning with each other and from each other and growing together. So we welcome everybody and everybody's contributions. Also want to give, before we move any further, just to give a really big thanks to part of the NAP team that's not visible at the moment. And
Mhm.
that's Lee and Tanya. So thank you for all that you do. I'm gonna kick it over to Stephen, who's gonna talk about what we're here to discuss tonight.
So, hey, thank you, Miranda. Thank you for that introduction about NAP and about the NAP kickback. What I want to do right now is really engage you guys in a conversation about falling into preservation. And I'm going to stay as still as I possibly can because my camera wants to do some things. So, but I would do some really antic things like fall into preservation. And of course, it's autumn. We're thinking about a lot of different things. People are going back to school, coming off vacation, and typically people think of cleaning and decluttering around spring. They're like spring cleaning and so forth. But there's a lot of good to be done right now in terms of taking care of your materials, right? And I think one of the first steps to taking care of your materials is really decluttering. It's really thinking about how the stuff you've collected over the years, are they things you want to preserve? Are they things you want to keep for long term? And with what Miranda said earlier on, there's all this conversation as well as actions, sort of publicly erasure of Black memorials, threats to Black collections. And so part of what Miranda and I are doing is that we think that the most important thing here is really to empower people to take control of their own legacies. So part of the whole decluttering thing, I love decluttering because Miranda came over my house recently and she saw boxes of things. And part of being a busy person, I am a person who goes, okay, and I just take a box, I just slip it in, put it in a box, and I'll say, I'll come back to it later. And of course, that's not exactly what we're going to talk about here. We're actually going to talk about tips to declutter and to move things out of your house and move things out of your collections and move things out of your closet. And but I want Miranda to tell me a couple things. I want to engage Miranda in something. I want you guys to think about it too. What are some of your favorite tips to declutter? If you've been that kind of organizing person, I'm thinking, so for example, I'll start off with me and then Miranda would like for you to kind of jump in. For me,
Mhm.
decluttering over the summer, the month of July, I took time out to just declutter my bathroom cabinets, my kitchen cabinets, my bedroom, I mean, excuse me, my living room closet. And I went through everything and got rid of a lot of things, as well as a bag of clothes. But I'm still not done yet. And so what I would do is I would work for an hour, take a 10-minute break, work for another hour, take another 10-minute break. And I always have music playing. And I love music. So I'm singing and dancing. So I'm trying to make it engaging for myself because sometimes decluttering can just be really boring. So I have to, kind of entertain myself. And so, Miranda, tips on decluttering. What do you
Well,
think?
first, I think I also want to go back to you talking about the box that
Yes.
you'll get and then you'll put to the side, because I think all of us do that and there's nothing wrong with it, because
Hmm.
we are, as we said, very, very
Busy
busy
people. Hmm.
creatures. We're
Yes.
always got like a million things going on, and the
Hmm.
idea of like getting rid of things or making decisions is really, really difficult. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I always go back to decision fatigue, which I
Ah,
seem
okay.
to get quite often. Yeah, because always, where you're, no matter what it is you're doing in your life, you are always making decisions, from really, really big
Absolutely.
decisions to just, every day, like what am I going to eat and
Hmm.
other
Hmm.
things like that. And should I go to the gym? Should I not go to the gym? So this idea of like, should I organize or should I declutter this box is a big one. When there's so many other things, decisions to make, or there's so many other things on your plate.
True that. True
Um,
that.
but how I got into archiving actually was, I was a professional organizer years and years
Hmm.
ago, before I went to get my degree in archives, my degree in library science. And, when I realized that I could get paid for it, I was like, oh, this is amazing. But
Hmm.
now, so I helped a lot of people think about how to declutter, like, because that is
Okay.
sort of the first thing to think about. And as archivists, we think about that too. We think about what is something that really needs to be preserved and
Hmm.
passed down the
What's
line, whether it's
essential? Yeah.
right. And then, and it's the same thing with, like you said, just cleaning out your closet and making those decisions.
Hmm.
We spent time and effort and money on those clothes. So just throwing them away can be really, really difficult. Um, and so making, a lot of times it's about making sometimes really difficult decisions on what to get rid of. So instead of like the stressful part of thinking about like the really, really difficult things, I
Hmm.
always just kind of start with the easiest things, like the low hanging
Okay.
fruit, like the things that I definitely know I need to get rid of. So
Okay.
I keep a lot of receipts for a lot of reasons, different
Okay.
reasons. I think it's, the nature of the work that we do. You hold on to
Hmm.
your receipts for a while. So I hold on to a lot of like little papers and things like that, and
Hmm.
things that I could really just get rid of and make
Hmm.
that decision. And so I feel like for whatever it is that's sort of weighing on you, in terms of whether or not it is something that you want to keep for your archives, or just clear out your
Hmm.
space so you could even have the capacity to think about things as important as like what the contents of your archives are, is
Hmm.
definitely, I feel like the best thing to do is to start with the easiest
Okay.
thing that you could possibly get rid of. And so it just depends on who you are and what's in your house. But that's the thing to sort of reflect on first before doing anything. Things that you
Hmm.
don't really have to put too much thought into. And then you feel really successful
Okay.
when you do,
It's like a
get
little
rid of
victory.
things. Little
What are
victory.
so the receipts? Let's just talk about your receipts. So you hold on to those. Is that the easiest thing that you can get rid of, or are there things that you find yourself I can get rid of that stuff real easy because you don't have an emotional attachment to it,
Right.
or
I
less of
think
an
the
emotional attachment?
emotional, right. Yeah. I think the emotional attachment is the biggest thing, right? Is that
Okay.
we are oftentimes the things we can't make a decision
Hmm.
because there is something that is tying whatever that object is to us in some
Right.
way. And
Right.
sometimes the emotional attachment is, I had this recently with Stephen, where I gave Stephen a bag of mine, and I bought this really nice bag, and I was feeling some
Hmm.
kind of way about it because I didn't like it. I didn't want it anymore. I loved it, actually. It was a beautiful bag. But I didn't want it. It didn't serve me. But I
Yeah.
kept it because I was like, I spent money on that bag and it is pretty.
Yes. Mhm.
and I really like it. And I know this is like, not like an extreme emotional attachment, right? But
Mhm.
it was something that I had to get right with in myself to give it to you in
Mhm. It took
order
a day.
to, it was a good day for you. And that's also the nice thing too about thinking about decluttering, that it doesn't have to be something that goes into a trash bin. There
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
thoughtful ways to give something away or to get rid of
Absolutely.
something.
Mhm.
And it could be a bag, or it could be like some family photographs that
Mhm.
it's not your immediate family, but it could be one of your cousins. You don't really
Mhm.
want to throw the photographs away, so then you could give them to a family member. And that's a
Right.
way to help declutter, right? Or give something to somebody else that you think that, and you know that they will appreciate, and they will,
Absolutely.
um, that it will resonate with them, especially if you have some sort of emotional attachment. But I feel like the emotional attachment is definitely the hardest. And that's why it's always good to do it with somebody else, to declutter with
Absolutely.
someone else, to go through things with someone else, so you could
Mhm.
tell them the stories about how you came to have that object, or
Or how
not, or they could just be like, it's time to get rid of it, and help you make the hard choice. It's
exactly.
always, yeah, it's always helpful to not go through some of these things alone. And it
That's a
doesn't
really
really
good point.
matter what the object is. If it means something to you, then it's meaningful.
And so something you said about the serving you, right? So Stephanie Brown, and there's a link in our YouTube page linking you to about a two and an hour plus conversation she's having. One
Oh,
thing she
Stephanie
said,
Perry.
Stephanie Paris and Stephanie Brown. I know it's Stephanie Brown. That's why. Stephanie Perry, who was having this conversation about decluttering, and it was filmed. It was a live stream filmed during December, and she brought that up, and it's like, well, some in some way, she says, I bought this one thing, this stool, and I was really excited about this stool, and she goes, I don't want that stool anymore. And
Right.
at that point, so there were two things she was kind of intimate thinking about, was that you feel um what is it, you feel really drawn to something at one point, but over time,
Mhm.
if you're not looking at it, using it, it tends to lose its luster. So the question I had for you, Miranda, was regarding the lovely green bag that you gave me,
Mhm.
was what made you make that decision to give it to me? Now, mind you, audience, she gave us she gave me the bag and then said, well, I gotta think about this. Hold on right now. And I was already, wedded to the bag. We'd already gotten married. I was very happy with it. But what was the key decision there?
To get rid of it,
Yeah. We're
they
not getting rid of it, to give to me. Let's
okay, to
language.
to
Yes.
let it go, to let it go,
To let
to
it go.
gift it to Steven, to
Yes.
gift it.
Hmm.
It was heavy. It was heavy, and I already carry a lot of heavy things,
Hmm.
and it was it's like the one strap bag. It's not like a book bag where I could kind of balance the
Hmm.
weight,
Yes.
and so it was too heavy.
Okay.
That was it. It was beautiful. I love the colors, of course. It's a really nice bag,
Hmm.
but it was too heavy for me to keep, so I
And
had to
so
let it go.
when I thought you said heavy, I was thinking you were saying heavy because it was a heavy decision to make. No, you're just talking about
No,
physically.
it was
So
physically hurting me.
it was
I had to
hurting,
let go of it because it physically hurt
and
to
you
keep
saw
the bag.
immediately I took off that the strap, and I said I'm
Right.
just going to hold it because my whole thing is I have book bags, and I will think throughout the day I'm going to have a use for this thing that I'm going to put in my book bag, this book or this folder of materials, uh, external hard drive, a bottle of water. Maybe it's raining. There's going to be an umbrella. So
Mhm.
my my slimming down, my decluttering, and it's a part of an aesthetic I'm working on, which is no, you're going to carry what you need and just be honest about what it is you're going to do when you leave the house.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
interesting. I think that we have someone in the chat, the live stream chat, and
But I
I'm not.
like that you referenced Stephanie's video. I think I was at that video. I think I was this was 3 years ago, and
Wow.
not only, yeah, so that was Stephanie Perry, who is a champion for Black women to leave the United States,
Hmm.
or to take time off from work and to just be a part of like relaxed culture.
Mhm.
Um, the other part of that was she was doing a declutter challenge so that
Yeah.
people could feel like they could leave
Mhm.
wherever they were at, and like move out of their house or their apartment or move into a tiny home or whatever.
Right. Mhm.
um but in it to do that, to she was also helping one black woman artist move abroad. And so in
Mhm.
every, I think it was like every bag we got rid of
Yes.
or
Yes.
materials, like we would donate $1 or she
Which is
would
really
don't match
nice.
the $1. So it was
Mhm.
like something like $25,000 to help
Yeah.
one black female artist move abroad for an entire year. And so
Mhm.
it was like a really fun, you
Mhm.
know, way to think about, not just like where we're going to put this stuff, because there's a lot of issues around just decluttering and throwing things away,
Mhm.
um, in
And it
terms
was
of like what to do.
community, like the
But it was, yeah,
community's
it was
helping out
right.
someone, and I love that. I was like, oh wow, how can I replicate something that with my friends? I was like, that's
Yeah,
awesome. I love to be able to give some money to someone who wants to do something, and that's it's a nice gift, I think. So I
right.
thought that it was a really lovely idea.
And so when you think about Stephen,
Hmm.
like I have a lot of things that I, think about when it comes to decluttering or
Hmm.
like getting, moving things on. I've been having this conversation with my mother recently, who has been organizing everything in her house related to our family archives.
Hmm.
And we've been talking about, like what to do with it after she organizes it, because
Right.
there's some things she has gotten rid of, but part of this idea, I guess, in an archival context of decluttering, it's really just giving something a new home. It
Right.
doesn't
Right.
always have to
Hmm.
mean like in the trash. And so we were talking about like it's a possibility that not all of our family stuff should stay in the family. Maybe there's an archive or a repository
Hmm.
where some
Hmm.
of the materials actually make sense and some of them should be passed on down the line. I don't have kids, and so that's
Right.
one of the things we are sort of talking about. What happens, after me? If I'm the
Hmm.
one that's going to get the materials, but then what
Hmm.
happens? And so really thinking about like the life cycle, the entire life cycle of the things that we hold on to and what to
Hmm.
do with
Hmm.
them, and not just like the declutter for the moment so we can go, this feels amazing, like I can actually see
Right.
my work again. But especially when it comes to the things that are really, really, really meaningful for to us, what does that mean too if we are to sort of pass it on down the line, and then how does
Right.
it continue to get passed down? And with I hate the idea of thinking always like if I give something to somebody and they don't understand the meaning behind it, to them it
Oh.
might look like
Mhm,
trash.
mhm.
It might look like something that should be thrown away because they don't understand the significance of that object. And so, just kind of thinking about that like long term. So not just like decluttering or thinking about moving things out of our spaces or
Right.
rehoming things in the
Mhm,
immediate, but also, down the line. And so I was kind of wondering how you think about that with your own collection, because I know that you have a lot of
mhm.
stuff. And you were talking about decluttering and how you're thinking about that within your own archival practice.
So that what it is a really good question, and several scenarios and anecdotes came to mind, but I really want to start by saying that I think that there's a certain period of letting go. So when you were saying,
Yeah,
I'm going to give this to you and or to this person, they may not see the significance that you do. I think the relationship stops at when you hand that person that thing, because
right.
you can't imbue it with value and meaning when someone doesn't see it that way. and
Right.
so and so that emotional kind of connection to the thing is really, um it's got to it's got to be a goodbye. It's got to be a goodbye.
Yeah.
It can't
Right.
be a conditional, take care of it this way, you got to take care of it that way. No. And it also, one of the things I think about the life cycle of something, whether it's a family heirloom, a photograph, a collection of books, that the person who is doing the decluttering or doing the I'm going to donate or give this away, they need to come to some clarity that you can't you can't barter with yourself or that other person. You need to make a decision and move on it,
Yeah.
because you'll be stuck in that sort of circle for a minute. You know, you'll just be cycling back and forth. Well, what if she doesn't wear those shoes? What she wears them all the time and wears down the heels? It's like, nope, nope, get rid of them.
Right.
You know, or and I want to use better language and get rid of them. Donate them, hand them over, imbue them with love, if anything, and then just let it go. You know, and because decluttering and organizing and all these things and archiving your work can take up so much time that we have to that's why that second person is so critical, having that second person with you who has less or no emotional attachment to the thing that you're working on is so wonderful.
Right.
Because earlier when you were saying you can tell them stories about it, I'm like, no, that sounds like a three-person team. The person
Yeah.
can listen to the story, and then the other person can be over here moving those boxes. Because I've been in situations before when I worked at the Schomburg Center, but also as an independent archivist, where having a third person is even better because they can listen to that person talk up, tell those stories, maybe even
Yeah.
interview that person while you're taking care of their archive or helping to move things out. Because the whole goal is to move things out, is to declutter. And sometimes what
Right.
we find ourselves doing is second guessing ourselves or saying, you know what, I think when Mariah becomes 25, she'll really enjoy this. I'll keep it till then. No, maybe give
Yeah.
it to Mariah now. You know, so
Yeah.
the
Right.
one brief anecdote that I have about family records is that I digitize a lot of things and send them to family members. So whether they're photographs, documents, and I think what I want to do and what I'm trying to do in terms of, it's not a great word, I was thinking of grooming, but the word that I want to use is work with some of my younger family members who have expressed an interest in family history and to bring them along with me.
Yeah.
Show them
Yeah.
materials as we go, talk about the importance of the family, what we've discovered about, you know, my mom's and my dad's side, but just find someone who seems to have that interest in your family. The other
Right.
anecdote is, very briefly, is that another a collection I'm working with now, the records are going, the genealogical records and this gentleman's professional records are all going to a repository. And so that includes all the genealogical records and so forth. What I've asked him to do is to really consider talking to family members about the photographs, because I
Yeah.
something about having family photographs as an archive and having to go there to see pictures of your mom or your great grandmother or what have you, when it could have been as easy as, do you want this photograph, right? To make
Right.
those kinds of decisions, but to make decisions that are going to help you with your immediate goals, but also your long-term goals and what you were mentioning, the life of the thing. So,
Right. Yeah. When
mhm,
you're when you're digitizing your photographs for your family
mhm.
and sending, do you are you keeping your physical photographs, or is that something that you're letting go? That you're
So I'm keeping the physical because two things. One, I have
okay.
a an affinity for paper.
Okay.
Um, and I live in a one bedroom apartment, so it can be a bit much at times.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do my usual sort of decluttering cycles. But and also sometimes the pictures have, they're inscribed. So what I've been doing is taking
Mm.
digitizing the front and back so people can
Yeah.
see that. But what looking at someone's handwriting, I'm very sentimental when it comes to family stuff, and as well as
Yeah.
friend stuff, chosen family, things that people have given me. So that will be when I have to have that third person come in and someone interview me, and while someone else is kind of moving other things out um, of my space, helping me move stuff.
So what about with digit? So I always think of like physical photographs. They're typically a lot older time period, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But digital photographs, most people in the photographs, it's a little bit more current.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it seems like, and we can take more of them, right? So you can
Yeah.
take a lot of shots of things. Do you declutter your digital photographs or do you preserve your digital photographs, I should say, the way you preserve your physical photographs, or is there a difference in how you interact with them because of the medium?
If I understand you correctly, I try to preserve everything in the same way. So for example, I try to get the best possible quality of a photograph, a physical photograph, a TIFF that I can use later rather than the JPEG. But it may not always be possible for me to get a TIFF because I may not have the original photograph. I might only have a copy of a copy of a copy. But what I'll do is I'll name it, and I have
Okay.
my naming convention so that I can find it fairly easy and send it to people. So I try to get rid of all duplicates because they do take up space on my computer and on my external hard drives. It is an ongoing process that
Mm.
I have not mastered yet. Because people will send me something and I might forget and I already have it and I'll download it. I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. Oh, I had this like 5 years ago. Yeah. So
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious with other people too. So if you are
yeah.
watching this in the future, let us know in the chat like how you interact with your materials and you think about decluttering.
Mm-hmm.
um, if it's digital versus physical. And if you're here with us today, if you have any anecdotes, please drop it in the chat. But I'm curious because I feel like I handle letters, physical letters, and
mm.
physical photographs very differently. Even if I have multiples, even if they're bad photographs, like
Oh, why?
like bad Polaroids, because of the
Okay.
context.
Okay.
And this is actually a conversation that I go back and forth with my mom about, and we get into heated debates about, is why keep a photograph if it's poorly taken? And
Right.
and that
Yeah.
could be like if it's grainy, or maybe it just over time, things have happened to it, it's gotten
Mm-hmm.
wet,
Mm-hmm.
or it looks crazy.
Degrades. Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I'll be like, this is the only image I
Right.
have of this person. And this might be the
Absolutely.
only image of this person with this person.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so the context of the item matters too. It's not just the
Absolutely.
object. But in digital collections, we don't necessarily think that way. Our
Mm-mm.
minds are like this, I'm going to keep the best of the best. And sometimes it could be,
Mm-hmm.
and it is different because you have multiples and you can see which one it is. But sometimes
Yeah.
you'll think this is a really bad picture and it's the only one of such and such or this situation, but I'm still going to
Mm-hmm.
get rid of it because it doesn't look great. And
Right.
so, or emails, like this was an email from my mother, but I'll keep the letters that she wrote to me like in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can just delete this email because it could be, really quick and whatever. But it's still a moment in time and a part of our communication, and the image is the same thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious to see how other people think about it, because obviously we can, again, what is personal to us and how we think about things and our emotional attachment is our own. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just always curious because we're very, both my mother and I, we keep a lot of things like you,
Mm-hmm.
Stephen. um, but we think about what we keep sometimes
Right.
very differently. So yeah, I'm very interested to hear how other people think about that.
Do send us your comments, questions. We're here live talking about decluttering and the context of cluttering and what to declutter and why to declutter it. And I think so. I was thinking about another way of thinking about decluttering is that it gives you space, right? And
Yes.
as we know, whoever lives in New York City knows that space is a premium in your
Yes.
apartment, but also even on the streets. It's a very, it's a city that's very public. You can walk. It's a walkable city, and so I think a lot about space in my apartment and have been drawn to fill it when it's there. I'm like, oh, I can put something over here now. And decluttering for me, it's antithetical to cluttering in a way because if I'm seeking more space, then I always have to sort of work with myself to go leave it like that. You will
Yeah.
appreciate it later. Go to bed, wake up, look at it again. Um, but there's a woman that both Miranda and I worked with, whose house is amazing. She lives in Pennsylvania, and she's the person who, when someone in the neighborhood has some extra something, they give it to her because they
Mm,
know she will get that stuff to somebody. So you never leave her house without something, some artifact, some piece of clothing. You probably eat well as well because she's pretty awesome. But I think about what communities, a community leader, right, could do with materials. So
right.
sometimes, um, and you might be that person, and I'm kind of that person. I'm the person I see a box of books and someone gives me a box of books. I know that if they're popular, that might be interesting to my friends, or photography books or modeling books or whatever. I'll I'll like, okay, I'm gonna make sure that next time I see this person, I'll give them that book. But
Yeah.
again, what you started out saying earlier on, we're making decisions every single second of the day. And I may not remember to take that book with me, and then it just ends up piling up. So again, I'm always sort of negotiating space, um, responsibilities to my community and to myself and to my family, chosen and biological. So these are the things I'm wrestling with on a daily basis.
Yeah. So, Stephen, our title for this episode, and I think it'll probably be the title for a few episodes to come, is Fall into Preservation. So,
Hmm.
how does decluttering, especially with an archival
Hmm.
sensibility, how does
Hmm.
that tie into this idea of preservation?
Well, I am so glad you asked that, Miranda. I think um, I love the title. I love the title "Fall into Preservation" because it's autumn, at least in the this part of the hemisphere, and that part of what is helpful when you're considering preserving something is to separate the wheat from the chaff. You want to move things out of the way, and you want to preserving is really important because what you're doing is you're honing and you're refining what's really important to you.
Yeah.
And in the matter of what when it comes to archives, it's what tells your story, what kind of story you want to tell. So having 13 copies of a magazine that you were in 1978, maybe you only need two. The rest can go to an institution. Do you know? I think we have a question, but we in the chat. Do you see it, Miranda?
I'm going to try to pin it
Okay,
and see if it pins. I don't know.
let's see if we can pin
Um,
it.
Yeah, I don't know. I see that. Thank you, Tanya. Put it into. Let's see. I might not be able to pin it, but let's see. So Lee does ask a question. So Lee wants to know, how do we handle regret, which is um, a
Mm-hmm.
really good question. So letting go of something or decluttering something that you wish you hadn't, or maybe somebody else wishes you hadn't once they find
Mm-hmm.
out you've
Mm-hmm.
done it. So how do you handle like some of that upset and sometimes when things go when they shouldn't have?
What do you think, Miranda?
Well, I really get into my feelings about it, actually. I mean, it could plague me for
No.
years and years and years. It's a hard thing. It depends
Wow.
what it is. It depends what it is.
Okay. Obviously,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, typically it happens when I don't real and again, going back to this idea, I didn't realize the significance of something,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
significance of an item, or somebody else is letting go of something that I don't really understand what it is until after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really hard if I think especially when it comes to black families,
Mm-hmm.
because the things that gets pat and I'm talking from Lee's question sounds very personal because
Mm-hmm.
obviously there's no
Mm-hmm.
regret. But I can talk about it from a regret from working, with institutions or with other people around their
Right.
materials. But for me personally, and I think about it for my family archive, that so much gets lost in especially in the US when it comes to black families over
Mm-hmm.
the years and centuries and whatever. Um, that when we do have things, I think they're kind of precious to us. And so
Mhm, mhm.
letting go of something that was somebody else's in my families that I have a connection with, whether I knew them or not, and spiritually or not, spiritually connected,
Mhm.
um, is really, really hard. When it's something of mine that I've created, I probably have less regret over it because I
Mhm,
don't know how
mhm.
much of my stuff I actually want to survive me.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so I have less regret over my own personal things. But anything that's in my archive that is, especially belong to somebody, kin, blood, yeah, I don't handle the regret well. So I don't have an answer to that, Lee. I don't know. How do you, if you handle that regret better, I'd
Yes.
like to know. I mean, at the end of the day, you forgive, right? You move on. You can't do anything about it. Not everything is meant to be kept, and not everything can survive. But
Mhm.
um, it's hard. It's still hard. I still mourn like anything else. But what about you,
Wow.
Stephen?
I have a very, like, almost the polar opposite. I don't suffer from FOMO. I I live a very interesting life. In fact, I suffer from too much life. I think the thing that, just to tie into the notion of regret, I think I regret not doing something in my life as
Hmm.
opposed to something like an item or something. I can be very casual about the loss of something.
Hmm.
When,
Okay.
like, for some reason, I think in a past life I must have been a criminal or something. I can't keep jewelry. I buy rings, I buy necklaces, gone in a week. If it's not gone in a week, I give it away. I'm like, oh, you look like you be a little bracelet for you. And so I'm trying to, like, think about handling what that kind of regret would feel like. But again, it only pops up to me as in, I wish I would have been kinder to somebody, or I wish I would have interviewed my mom more before she passed, or I wish I would have been more courageous during a conversation. And
Yeah.
even that, to some degree, I try to wrestle that into art and kind of play with it and go,
Mm.
okay, next time you'll do it better or not or whatever. But to nurse it for me, my mind is too um focused on the next thing sometimes. Even though I love archives, I love history, I'm thinking about history all the time. I'm also thinking a lot about the future.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that is very different. I
Mhm.
mean, don't get me wrong, I regret not saying things or doing things too.
Mhm.
I regret it all. So I gotta learn from you, Stephen.
I will give you some of my FOMO
Be
right
less
now.
regretful.
And I think, and it may have started with the death of my mother. I just felt everything else was off the
Mhm.
table.
Hmm.
Like, I
Yeah.
think about how people lose things in a fire, and I think,
Right.
well, if I don't know exactly how I would feel because I've never been in this situation, but the only thing I would want to really keep were photographs of my mom and dad and some family stuff, and everything else could go,
Yeah.
because that feels. I'm not even sure how that came into my being as a thought, or as a, if, like, it's really on my body. I'm like, no, if I'm alive, then I think that that's the most important thing. Of course, I will have some. I would grieve it, yeah, but yeah, overall, I'm like, okay, time for another something.
That's very interesting as you're an archivist and
Yeah,
your disposition is to save things and to,
absolutely.
when you meet people, you're like, you need to preserve that.
Mhm.
You need to put that in an archive or you need to pass that down to
Absolutely.
somebody. So you, on the one hand, you are very much focused on preservation. And
Mhm.
on the other hand, you're like, well, what is, it
And
is.
and I wonder how they kind of connect or don't connect with each other, because I know what the assignment is for Black folks, right?
Hmm.
Diasporically on the continent, we need
Hmm.
to take care of our stuff, whether in
Right.
institutions, outside of institutions, absolutely. Um, so maybe, it's a really interesting thought. I need to really kind of parse that and kind of think about it and pull it apart and see what's under it, because I think that my attachment to things is always, this is just a thing.
Yeah.
It's not the love I have for Miranda, you know?
Yeah.
That's so much more awesome to me. But since I love really, really love archives, I want people to understand that there are many ways to archive something through oral histories, through the items, and different ways of telling your story. So I'm dedicated to that work.
Well, maybe it's also too, Stephen, and as I'm hearing you talk about this, it's not the thing that's important, it's the story behind the thing. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not necessary. I mean, it's awesome to get somebody's like program from an event they threw in the 70s, a rare event somewhere. It's nice to have that representation,
Mm-hmm.
so that people know that this thing happened.
Yeah.
But the important thing for you is not the object itself, it's that people recognize this
Mm-hmm.
happening, right? And so maybe that's what it is for you. You put more
Mm-hmm.
you put more weight on that, on the storytelling than the objects.
I think I appreciate it more. And Tanya has a question here.
Okay, Tanya.
So Tanya
Oh,
said, a death can
mm-hmm.
impact a person's decluttering decision.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. At any given time, Miranda or I will be working with someone whose spouse or parent died and they're wondering what to do with this, that, and the other. And
sorry.
what has happened is typically someone's got to get out of a house or get out of an apartment. So that a death can impact a person's decluttering decisions in the way that they simply need to move out of somewhere. So what do you keep? What do you not? And so it's a little bit more warp speed. You know, you're going through things. You have some memories of this thing. You are crying. You're grieving, but you know that there's a deadline. You know, December 7th, you got to get out of the house. That kind of thing. So absolutely, a death can, and that, and I think I thrive well in those situations with other folks because again, I don't have the emotional attachment and I can help a person think through or a family think through what's important to them. And if they don't want to make the decision immediately, they can put things in storage with some care, not just throw everything into storage because again, that's another cost. You can have a much smaller place, a much smaller storage space if you do a little bit of, cleaning, at that moment. And so,
Right.
hmm
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely, I think any sort of passing of someone, it's always good to do it with somebody else when it comes to thinking about their materials. It's really hard to make those decisions, especially right after it happens.
absolutely.
The passing of somebody is really, really difficult, and it could take years.
Right.
Yeah,
It's the grace you should give yourself is the grace you give to people when they're mourning, to give them space to mourn. Give it to yourself as well, because in in this particular instance, you don't have to get everything done immediately, except for maybe that one thing, move out of the house, what
yeah,
have you. But again, you know, some kindness and some love is really important in those challenging times. Yes.
yeah. So I think we are about time, Stephen. It
We
happened
might be
very
about
quickly.
time. Mhm.
It was a good
You want
conversation.
yes.
And so what are we doing, Stephen? When are we back next?
I think we're back in 2 weeks, and we'll be definitely talking about something related to archives and related to the political and social moments related to archives. And we hope to that you will come back and see us and speak with us, interact with us as we develop this wonderful space, as we build this space out where we can talk about these things.
Nap kickback. And so if you're joining us from the future, and there's something that you want us to talk about, to engage with, definitely write it in the chat and we'll check it. And um,
Hmm.
yeah, just happy to be here with you. We hope that we can continue to have these conversations
Hmm.
around anything to do with archives, from the big to the small. So if
Hmm.
you appreciated this video, thank you for staying around. Definitely hit the like button. And if you want more content from the Nomadic Archivist Project, definitely subscribe. We have a podcast that we're about to launch our fifth season,
Hmm.
in the telling. And we also have that podcast, the video cast as well, so you can come and watch us on our channel and all the amazing guests that we talk to about their family
Mhm.
stories. We also have all the seasons online on our website, nomadicarchivistproject.com, so you can also check it out there or anywhere you get your podcasts. But thanks again for being here with us. We
Thank you for
appreciate it. We
coming.
appreciate you, and
Mhm.
we'll see you next time.
Be well. Take good care.